before I get started, allegedly, in my opinion, supposedly, this is all just my opinion. Let's just get started. Hi there lovelies, welcome. If you've never been here before, my name is Bryony and I do cruelty-free and vegan makeup reviews. Why can I not say reviews today? What the hell? And tutorials here on YouTube. And I'm also beauty editor at Vegan Magazine as well. So basically, beauty is my life. But today you're here for something that's a little bit different. So I kind of wanted to do a bit of a dive into what is probably going to be happening in the beauty industry once we come out of quarantine. These are the things that I've just been noticing. So there are a lot of videos that are talking all about what's happening with the economy, predictions of the economy, like the housing market, all that sort of stuff. But what's going to happen with the world of beauty? Now, there are a few different things that we can pull to be able to see like what sort of thing the picture might create in this weird jigsaw puzzle of life called 2020, where like there is literally no guide, everything's going backwards and suddenly everyone's dying. I've come up with a few points I want to cover in this video for you all. Let's get started with point number one. We are going to look at what's happening globally, including the job losses in beauty. And I think it's important to have a look at what's been happening around the place, because this is an unprecedented time, because last time we've had pandemics in the world, it hasn't really been on such a global scale and wiped out the way that we function. Like, people can't go outside in most areas. Monday the 13th of April, so it's Easter Monday right now. Some of you may have heard of the company Heyday. So the CEO is Adam Ross and they do like facials and stuff. And they've had to lay off all of their store staff, so that is 300 people total. He mentioned in his CNBC interview, I'll link all of my resources down below as well for you, because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of information out there that's really, really good if you are at all curious. He mentioned in his CNBC interview about insurance cover that you get. Viruses are not covered, and so it's left his company in a very vulnerable position, and so that will have left a number of other companies also in major financial crisis at the moment. They had stores in New York, LA and Philadelphia, and it's these people who will be at high risk, who deal with people face to face, honestly. Like, a company that is just producing a good will be a lot better faring than someone that is producing a service. So we all know what Sephora did. They lay off 3,000 part-time and casual staff. Now, this was across America. So a lot of YouTubers have already looked into this issue, but there is something else that I kind of wanted to raise with you guys, because it might be a little bit misleading the way that things have been done, because Sephora is actually owned by LVMH, and so it could probably be up to the shareholders that have made this decision. It could actually be nothing, and I repeat, nothing to do with what Sephora wanted to do. Don't get me started on how bad their point system is, because we know that their point system is just... There are a lot of people that are boycotting Sephora, and I understand that because of what they did. Just calling people up, like telling people on a mass conference call, by the way, effective immediately, you don't have a job anymore, hang up the phone. Like, that's awful on all accounts, and I feel so sorry for those people. So I do understand why people are boycotting. Like I said, they're owned by LVMH, so it could have actually been up to the shareholders to make this decision, because LVMH, they are a massive company that own so many beauty brands. Now, I've already looked into this previously, and I'll link the video up here for you as well, because I did a parent company deep dive, and I'm going to be doing more of a deep dive into each individual company, so subscribe. Ultimately for Sephora, it's like, who's really to blame for the direction that they took? Is it up to the shareholders, or is it up to Sephora themselves? Because they've got 13,000 employees across America, so now that means that they've only got 10,000 employees, and it was the part-time and casual workers. Now, this is something that is a very common thread everywhere, is it's the part-timers, the casual workers, and I also just saw a report about the fact that it's predominantly women that are being let go. The highest unemployment rate is actually by teenagers at the moment, with 14.7%, I believe it was. I'll link it down below for you as well, but it's those people that have been laid off the most, and disproportionately women as well. So if you think about the stereotypical female jobs in the service industry or beauty industry, it kind of makes sense why they would be the ones that would be most affected, and also because they're the ones that have more part-time jobs. Say for if you are a parent and you're only able to work part-time, you're going to be the ones that are getting hit, which is awful. So I know that it's a very common business practice to let those people go first. That's really, really sad for those Sephora employees. And it's also happened for Revlon, but Revlon, it's happened in a different way because they've been making losses for the past 5 quarters at least. And so they are actually looking at eliminating 1,000 jobs and they're working with Goldman Sachs. Great company to work with to fix your financial problems. They're not shady at all. Nope. No, that's what's happening for Revlon, but I don't think that that's necessarily due to the situation at the moment, but I think that it will definitely play into it because people are going to get pickier about what they're actually purchasing. Yeah, also, the last time that I wanted to use Revlon was a decade ago. That was the last time it was really all that relevant, and it's just kind of gone ever since then. I mean, it's like, who are they really appealing to now? They had like their foundation, which was amazing. Other than that, they've never really had products that are that iconic, you know what I mean? It's just they have never developed. And they're also overpriced because I used to have to pay $45 for that foundation. I'm pretty sure it's $55 now, and currently my foundation is $10 and it's also cruelty free. But also it's really, really worrying for the people that work for them. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this news because the unemployment rate in America has just skyrocketed. It's also because the way that the American government has handled this whole situation is they haven't. But the problem is the world has got this whole globalization thing happening, so everyone relies on everybody else. And we live in this tiny little like 3-island effectively little country down here, and the rest of the world provides us a lot of stuff, and we also export a lot of stuff to the rest of the world as well. So every single country is reliant on other countries, so there are massive problems here, as we know from what happened with Wuhan when they were really badly affected and they had to stop production of things. We all suffered from that. But now we're on to a different topic. So, has everyone been keeping their hands clean? Like, you know, when you go somewhere and then people are just spraying you with like hand sanitizer before you can go into a shop. Yeah, we've seen a lot of beauty companies do that as well. So I'll link down below resources so you can see all of the different beauty companies that have done this. I'm really, really glad that they have been helping out people by actually creating this, because there was a massive shortage everywhere, and they're providing healthcare workers and the general public with access to getting hand sanitizer. Now, some of these companies have been giving this product away to the healthcare workers and then also selling on to the consumer as well. But there is a slightly cynical side to me when it comes to this, because you've got these companies that saw this kind of coming, like, I think that everyone could sort of see that this could potentially turn into a disaster around the end of January. In beauty products, you have a lot of alcohol involved, and so it's very, very easy for these beauty companies to just switch manufacturing to be producing hand sanitizer. It's not a very challenging thing for them to make, considering the ingredients that they deal with on a daily basis. Now, considering the fact that it's only essential businesses that are allowed to be open during times like this, do you think that a makeup company traditionally would be able to remain open during the quarantine period? No, they wouldn't be. So is this purely philanthropic of them to be producing these items, or is it to make sure that they can stay open and also get a massive amount of goodwill? Because every single company, I believe it was LVMH that decided to do this first off, because it was people like Dior, so they're owned by LVMH. Those guys are not idiots, like we all know this, like they are smart business people. So they would have seen this coming and they just transferred things over, and the amount of goodwill that has come pouring towards them when they make these super elite products, still tests on animals, and don't have the best business practices. So they switched over to doing that, and then they gave away a lot of these hand sanitizers to people. Now, the very cynical side of me is just saying, great, so you've just gotten yourself a massive amount of goodwill and brand loyalty by doing this. And then of course they made sure that their other brands were doing this as well, and then all these other big companies actually kind of cottoned onto this as well, and then they're like, sweet, that means that we can stay open. It means that their shareholders will remain happy because they keep getting money pouring in, but then also you get all this goodwill and people are going to still want to keep buying from you. And there's another issue to this, because if they hadn't actually done this, then it would have come down to the government asking them to do this instead. And so you have this situation where either you can wait for this government body to ask you to do this, therefore you receive no profits, no goodwill, no nothing, and it's actually been told to you to do this, or you could have done it yourself and been like, oh, I'm a philanthropic goddess who's also glittery. Oh, by the way, do you want some new blush and highlight? I have that for you as well because I'm allowed to stay open. Yeah. So you could have either done this approach where you look like a proper amazing do-gooder, amazing GC person, or you could have waited for this person to give you nothing in demand that you actually provide your supplies. So which one do you think a big company was going to make? I'm just saying, this is all, okay, allegedly, this is all my opinion, don't come for me, I'm sorry, but resources for this are down below. The theories are my own though, so bring your own tinfoil hat. Capitalism, baby. That's all it is. Sorry, I watched too much Tiffany Ferg. There is another word that is being used an awful lot at the moment, which I wasn't aware of because I believe it's a lot more used in America. So it's called furlough, and let me get my dictionary. An employee furlough is a mandatory suspension from work without pay. It can be as brief or as long as the employer wants. Furloughed employees have no automatic rights to payment. However, historically, Congress has paid all federal workers for the time they lost during shutdown. So for example, Macy's have furloughed most of their employees, and those employees won't be receiving pay throughout this time. Now, of course, this is in America. There are a lot of different situations that are happening there, but I also know that a lot of the people that watch my content are based in America. I wanted to kind of raise this as an issue because unless you're a federal worker, you're not going to be getting employment money from them. You have to be applying for unemployment, and we've seen those numbers. They're skyrocketing every single day, and it's actually terrifying. So again, I'll be linking down below all of the resources for that because that's very scary as well. So you've got these many different situations. You have these big companies looking like golden goddesses over here doing the good stuff. You've got these other big companies that are also just letting go of a bunch of staff whilst also being able to maintain a squeaky clean sort of look. And then you've got all these people that are now just without money. So they're having to beg the government for money. So that's currently kind of the trifecta of things that is happening. Also, the World Trade Center has come up with a really interesting report, which I will link down below, dissecting the trade and comparisons to the 2008 GFC and predictions for an optimistic outcome from after all of this and a pessimistic outcome. Now, I am not an economist, so I can't really dive into it much myself, but I think that the way that they've actually broken it down, it's very easy to digest for anyone. If I can understand it, and pretty much anyone can. And so if you're curious about what is potentially going to be happening in the future, I'd recommend having a look into that. Speaking of 2008, this is pretty much when I was starting off in the workforce properly. Great time to be doing it along with all those other millennials. In 2008, anyone that worked through that period knows how many job layoffs there were. I know that it's not just me that was affected by it. I know that all countries around the world were affected by it. But the way that the GFC happened is quite different to what a pandemic will cause. The pandemic will last until we have a vaccine, and also until everyone gets that vaccine. So that means that you need to be able to get this vaccine to the poorest people, the most remote people, and also to people that do not want to take it, except for the people who cannot take it because they're autoimmune compromised. So basic herd immunity. So I don't know how governments are going to handle that, but it's going to last until that point, and that could be until maybe even September next year. So there's a lot that's going to be happening during that time. And for the GFC, that was a different kind of bubble that was mostly to do with housing and all these banks lending fake money effectively. And then of course the bubble burst, and then we all just came crashing down. There are a lot of videos that go into everything that happened then. There's no point of me going into it for you, but just look at Lehman Brothers. So in 2008, one thing that never died was the beauty industry. Has everyone heard of something called the lipstick effect? No? So back then, people were still buying makeup, but they were being very careful about what they were buying. But women still wanted to be able to look attractive and still be able to attract a partner. Whereas now I kind of feel like makeup has evolved into kind of this artistic thing that we all do. And also there is a lot more of it available now than there used to be, my god. Basically, what was happening then was actually beauty companies were making bank on stuff because people weren't able to go on trips and weren't able to buy a fancy new TV, but women could still treat themselves to a nice new lipstick, getting a new mascara, those little things basically under $50. They provided a lot of boost to self-esteem, and it was something easy that women could just do. It's small, it's discreet. You can treat yourself in a way that kind of feels like self-improvement and a confidence boost whilst the world is sort of crumbling around you, you know? What we can potentially be seeing from this is the fact that the beauty industry will still be able to continue to thrive and flourish throughout this whole quarantine, throughout everything, so long as they can actually make sure that the way that they produce these goods are to the standards that the government set. You have to make sure that people have got correct PPE, which is a hard thing to come by. There is a massive shortage of all of this everywhere. People that are working on the front line don't have that. How are we expecting people that work in the cosmetic industry to have this? I don't know, but that's the only way that these companies can actually function in order to make these products. So unless they've got a massive backlog, they're going to be kind of screwed as well. And same as like I was saying before with the whole globalization and how factories are based all over different places, it depends on how these places are affected. It depends on how those staff are affected, which is something that we just do not know to what extent it's going to be going on for, how long it's going to last, anything. It's really, really scary, uncertain times. But if cosmetic companies can figure out a way to be able to make sure that things can continue on, they'll continue just fine. And like we could see from 2008, people are still going to want to be able to treat themselves. Now, there are some things that are going to obviously have to change from that because we can't all just go splurging on stuff all the time. And that leads me into my next point, which is influencer responsibility. Let's have a look into this because I've noticed that influencers are doing more shop my stash sorts of things. They're not doing as many hauls. There are still people that are doing big haul videos, which I don't understand. So I've mentioned all the job losses. I've mentioned the way that beauty companies have been acting towards their employees, and then you've got influencers that are probably not all that affected by it because they're just running off AdSense and running off sponsorships. And what do people want people to do during a time where they're stuck at home and they can't go out and spend their money on restaurants, they can't spend their money on holidays? These companies are going to be wanting people to spend their money on makeup and have a different distraction, right? So you've got all these influencers that are just going to be getting asked, oh, please promote this thing. And then also there's been, okay, so Smokey Glow did an amazing video on this, and it was on like pandemic sponsorship kind of. It's terrible. I'll link her video down below as well because honestly she did a really, really good job on it. We have limited resources everywhere, so it's really unethical for companies to be doing that. Anyway, the way that influencers are behaving now is actually having a massive effect not only on their career, because if you do something wrong right now, people are all plugged in to what is happening globally, including in the influencer bubbles. So influencers that are just wasting masks, wasting resources, acting like they are bored because they're stuck at home in these beautiful mansions. Like, got all these influencers that are going to get massive backlash from this. And it's quite concerning the fact that some of them can still seem to be quite tone deaf about the strife, the death, the illness, the awful situations that people are going through. that their audience is going through. And also the way that influencers are not only acting now, but what they're promoting, what they are using is going to be having a big impact on what their audience thinks of them. And this is kind of a critical time, because if influencers are just doing these massive haul videos, they're not going to be really seen very well by someone that's just lost their job. But I also think that it's the influencer's responsibility to kind of teach people skills to make them be able to use the most of their makeup. The Shop My Stash stuff I fully endorse, and I think that's a really good idea, because even for someone like me, because we were saving for our wedding, which luckily we were still able to do because it was the week after that things kind of went crazy here in New Zealand, so we got so lucky with that. I feel very fortunate. The only new products that I bought were things that I needed, and like items like making sure I had like a good foundation, like the stuff for the wedding that was kind of important, and then also sharing those results with you. So it really is down to the influencers to realize the platform that they're on, realize the influence that they do have, especially when people are scared. I've seen so much fake rubbish going around that it's baffling to me, and it's really concerning because these people have got young followers who are very impressionable, and it's up to them to educate people properly. Like, whatever you say is going to have a lot more weight to it than what you realize right now. When people are scared, they're more inclined to believe things that make them feel more comfortable. Let's look at what company focuses should be on. Now, it's going to seem quite poor taste if companies are coming out with extremely luxe, extremely useless products which are very gimmicky right now, because we've got these people that are just wanting to be able to make sure that they can look good for a job interview, make sure that they can feel confident in themselves. You're not really going to be needing like this 24 karat gold molten like highlight thing that you won't be able to wear anywhere except for like an Instagram photo. Like, just things like that. I think that we should hopefully see less gimmicky products and also less products in general, because people's spending power is going to go down. I'm looking at certain companies in particular, like Colourpop, that just come up with a new range all the time. Like, you're gonna have to make sure that you slow down this stuff, because people will not be able to afford to keep up with the trends that you are putting in place. And I use trends in quotation marks because who picks a trend? It kind of feels like companies are picking trends for us now, and it's not up to personal choice at all. It's actually just up to a company and whatever they spit out at us, which is constant. So it's kind of like companies need to be responsible about the products that they're putting out, the impact that their products are putting out, like the ingredients that go into them, making sure that things are not using essential resources that are needed in other essential industries. Like, we're gonna have a lot of things like this actually going on. Now, I do understand like launching a new foundation, a new mascara, like essential things that people will need to restock. But when it comes to like over-the-top opulent things, I don't really think that we'll see too much of that, because that would be very poor taste for the next year to 18 months. We don't know how long this is going to go. So it's going to be a hard sell for a lot of companies, and I hope that they realize that. And I also hope that companies use this opportunity to do some charitable good. You know how much I love companies like Thrive Cosmetics. Now, they are an incredibly good company. Their mascara is expensive, but well, their products in general are expensive, but they do a lot of good as a company. And I think we're going to see a lot more focus into companies kind of shifting more towards environmentally friendly things, charitable things, and so that people can not only feel like they're getting a treat for themselves, but they're doing good, because people want to be able to do good right now, and there's a definite sense of that going around. So I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of that, and it would just be stupid basically for companies to not realize that and to capitalize on it, because it's kind of a good business practice. Goes on to one that kind of breaks my heart. We're on to item number 6 now, and this is the service industry and the beauty industry. So one, hairdressers are shut at the moment, so we're gonna see people come up with ratchet hair. Like, it doesn't matter what. Like, I can wait for mine, but I kind of feel sorry for Brandon and all the men out there and all the women out there with short haircuts. It's not going to be pretty for a while. I kind of feel like hairdressers will still be able to cope. I don't know about different kinds of hairdressing jobs other than just the essential haircut, because I think that hair color is kind of going to go on the downturn, because that tends to be about $350 to get your hair dyed, and that has to be about every 8 weeks to get your roots retouched. Maybe 12 weeks, maybe you're someone that can stretch it that long, but I don't think that people are going to be splurging on things like that. Same as things like facials, massages, nail treatments. Those are very high risk, close contact things, which are definitely going to go on the downturn. Now, I know that people are all moaning about the fact that their acrylics are growing out and stuff, and it's like, I'm sorry, there are luckily YouTube videos which show you how to safely remove them. My God, do not just yank them off and ruin your nails. I've seen someone do that on Facebook and it hurts me so much. But you're gonna see a lot more in the way of DIY beauty. For someone like me, I already dye my hair at home. I already do my eyebrows myself. I do my nails myself. I do a lot of stuff myself anyway, so people like me are already quite well equipped to be able to do this, but there are other people that kind of rely on these other services, and so these other people are going to be in a potential financial position, which means that they cannot do that any longer, and there's going to be a lot of job loss around that sort of industry. So I don't really know what these people should do, because they've got these particular qualifications, and it's stuff that you can't teach. You can't sell these products on because the chemical level in them it's too dangerous to give out to the general public, basically. So there's a lot in the way of that industry that is going to sadly collapse, I kind of think, because this is going to go on for a year, that people will not be able to get this stuff done, and people are just going to start coping by doing it themselves at home, and I think that's really heartbreaking. So now we're on to item number 7, which is what I think are the key items that you should buy. So there are people that are in a very difficult financial position right now, and even if you're not, I know that people are more keen to save their money and make sure where they spend it is in the right places and things that they'll be able to use. So there are just a few items that I think that people should still be buying if you still want to make sure that you can buy makeup. If you're one of those people that can go without makeup and be happy, skip it. It's a luxury product, you do not need it, and it's just something that I think that a lot of people can do without. But if you're someone that is really addicted to it, if you get a lot of joy from it, and if it means that you're actually a confident person when you wear it, and you have the money to be able to do it, and you're being responsible, then I think that in terms of the things that you buy, just focusing on the essential items is the most important thing. So of course we've got skincare. Now skincare is something that people that aren't having facials and etc. done means that they're going to actually need skincare. So I think investing in that makes sense. Skincare includes sun cream, by the way. Please make sure to still apply SPF, it's important. Mascara. So for everyone that ignores this rule, please don't. You'll get an eye infection. It's not good. Don't do this. Throw out your mascara every 3 months. That's how long your mascara can last. It comes in contact with a wet area, and you can cause some horrific damage to your eyes if you use old mascara. And for people that are not wearing makeup very often, you'll use this mascara, tuck it away, all those germs are still developing in that tube, and then you apply it back onto your eye later on when you go back into the office, and then suddenly you're sick because you have horrific eye infection. So you don't really want to do that. Just mascara is something else which you can still buy. I've told you what my favorite one is. It's the 5 Cosmetics one. If that's too expensive, I think that I've heard that the e.l.f. Mineral mascara is meant to be good. I know that Jeffree Star's done a video on that, so I think that one's meant to be good. Another thing which I think is kind of an essential for anyone that is like a big makeup user is foundation. Now obviously you're gonna have to make sure that you're replenishing that, and you can always look into getting cheaper foundations like I've mentioned before. My favorite foundation is a drugstore one. It's e.l.f. Flawless Finish Foundation, and I'm wearing it right now. I wore it on my wedding day. I'm very confident in that one. So there are always cheaper alternatives to what you normally buy. And same goes for concealer. I think that those 4 things are kind of like the basics which you're gonna need to replenish, because a lot of people already have eyeshadow palettes. Those will still be fine. You've already got brushes, you don't need more. Blushes, bronzers, highlighters, lipsticks, you've probably got plenty. So you've still got all of those different things you already have. So just utilize what you've got. and restock on those essentials. That really is my entire ramble done now. I hope that this video was interesting for you. If it was, please do give it a thumbs up because that really helps me out heaps, and I hope that you all enjoyed this, and I'll be coming up with lots of new content every single week. During this whole lockdown period, I'm coming with 2 videos a week, and so subscribe for that because I'm here to help distract you. But I just wanted to tackle this issue today because I kind of feel like it's not being talked about, and it's important to talk about it. I hope you're all staying safe, stay inside, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and if you're going outside, if you have access to a face mask, wear a face mask, wear it properly, don't touch it, don't pull it down, don't do this. Ugh. There's a lot of mistakes that people are making regarding face masks and gloves. Just follow what the scientific community is telling you to do, basically, and what the government is telling you to do in your own country, because they ultimately know best. Be kind to one another. Hope you're all staying well. Thank you again so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Bye.